Hi guys, welcome back to another tutorial video. I am sure that you guys have been waiting for this tutorial. So this would be a video showing you guys how I make my gelatin prosthetic. So I'll be jumping right into the tutorial now. So here we have my sculpting tool and I have two different sets, and the good thing about this set is they come in different ends with different shapes, which I can use to create some dents and forms when sculpting my clay. And some of the brushes like this I use to create some textures, and this also I use to create some lines, just to create some textures on the gelatin prosthetic so it can mimic the surface of the skin area. And I use this for scraping. I use it to scrape out, and whatever you feel like this does for you, you can just jump right into it. You can continue practicing with this, and with time you get a hold of how to make use of it. And for this other set, this it's made of plastic and it comes in very handy. I like the ends of them as well. Or you can choose to just work with just one set, but I just prefer to have different sets just to have varieties of tools to work with. Okay, just like the ends of this, I can create big paws with it. So that's about that. So now we're going to come into our clay. So this is sculpting clay, and it's medium to hard. It's not so hard and it's not so soft, so this way you can work with it very flexible. It's reusable, it doesn't air dry, and it's oil based. Okay, so right now I'm just taking a little portion of it and I'm rolling it with my palms and then placing it on my workplace, and then doing the same thing with another portion of the clay. Okay, so I'm trying to make sure that both have similar length and also have similar thickness, okay, which is very important. So I'm creating a very simple wound, right? I'm creating a very simple wound, so that is why I'm using a little amount of clay. So this is beginners friendly if you haven't done this before. So this is going to give you an idea of how I create my gelatin prosthetics. So you actually have to start with sculpting what your wound looks like. Okay, so if you have the bigger wound, you will have to sculpt using a larger amount of clay. So now I'm using my fingertip to smoothen out the edges, making sure that it's thinned out. And I will be doing this and ensuring that everything looks good and well. So now I'll be coming in with this sculpting tool, and what I'll be doing is just scraping out the excesses that I do not need on the edges. Okay, so one thing you should know is, in as much as you're sculpting, make sure that your sculpt look very clean and tidy. And you can take out any clay you do not need, and even if you scrape out more than you need, you can always put it back. You can always take out a little more clay and just fix it up. It is very soft, not so soft but medium to hard, but very easy to work with. Okay, so I'll be doing this on the other edge, on the other side of the clay, to ensure that everything looks good as well. All right, so take your time. If you're doing this for the very first time, it is not so difficult. All right, you just have to try as many times as possible, and you just find yourself doing this very easy. All right, so the next thing I'll be doing is to create some textures inside of the wound. So right now I am rolling up little balls and creating fake fats that you get to see underneath your skin layer. So I'm doing this, and I'll also be creating other textures as well. So it depends on the area where the injury happens, or the kind of injury you're creating, and as well how old or how fresh the injury looks. But that would be when you get to the stage of painting and shading. All right, so right now I'm just creating different kinds of textures. You can create whatever you want, but make sure it looks real, and everything changes when you can actually get to paint this well and let it look very real. Okay, so but when you have a very good sculpt, it gives you more inspiration on how to paint it and enable it look as real as possible. All right, so I'm doing this tutorial so that you guys can also try this at home, or you can also try this professionally as well. Okay, and I'm really glad, and I want to say big thanks to everybody who has been following my journey up to this point. You guys are the best, and if you're yet to subscribe to my channel, please do. It would really go a long way for me. I really do appreciate, and I also appreciate the comments I get. Yeah, it's really incredible. Thank you guys, thank you so much. There is so much more I would love to share, and I just can't wait. Okay, all right, so I'm still on the process of creating more textures, and I'll be doing this till I'm satisfied with what I have, and also going back and forth with the edges as well. So just take your time. If you're a beginner at this is going to take more than 1 hour, okay, to achieve. This little piece is going to take more than 1 hour, because you need to be dedicated and you need to really make sure that everything comes out fine. So if you guys create stuff like this, and you can always tag me on our Instagram page, you can follow us on our Instagram page, and as well you know, make a shout out to us. I would really appreciate. I would really appreciate, and I'll know that, yeah, that you guys are following up on my journey. So this is a stippling sponge, and I'm going to use this to create some textures on the sculpt, and I'm using this two-piece to place over the sculpt and then create my textures. And the reason I don't go direct is because it will create some very pronounced lines, and you don't want it pronounced, you want it faint. Okay, so I am just going around this a couple of times, making sure that it looks very good. So I'm going to come back to this with this brush, and I'll be rolling it up over the sculpt, and this is also going to add some textures to it. So one thing with textures is you cannot use just one tool to create texture. You can use a couple of tools so that it looks natural and it looks very good. I'm also creating this texture inside of the wound, so it also gives me an extra extra effect. So I'm coming back with a lighter piece, and because I wanted the texture a little more harsh but still smooth, okay, that is why I'm not going in direct. All right, so this is going to be very nice, and it is going to come out very good, trust me, very good. So now I'll be taking more piece from the clay and rolling it against my palms, and what I'll be doing right now is creating a very long line round the sculpt, and this is going to create some kind of flashing which would enable me pull out my prosthetics after I'm done casting. All right, so I'll be doing this quickly, and you get to see what I mean by what I'm just saying. Okay, so after that is done, I'm just clearing up the space around my sculpt just to have a nice and clean base. And now I'll start placing my flashing around my sculpt. Just give it a little distance away from the sculpt. So this is going to help me pull out my prosthetics, as I've said earlier, out of my mold. All right, so I'll be doing this around the sculpt, and what I did wasn't enough, so I just take a little more piece from my clay, and I'm just going to merge it up together so it's blendable. And yeah, I'm just going to blend both ends together just to make it work. All right, so just like I've stated earlier on other videos, my video tutorials are very detailed and dedicated to beginners and professionals as well. So if you get to recreate something similar to what we have created, do make a shout out to us or tag us to any of your pieces. We would love to share in your journey, and we'd love to know that we are actually creating huge impact out there. Yeah, so the tutorial videos are going to be coming in from month to month, from time to time. You bear with us because we might not get to release tutorial videos as frequently, but surely on the good tips and the good tricks, you guys will get to know and see them. All right, so right now I'm trying to define the edges and making sure that everything looks very, very good. So right now what I'm doing is to create walls around the sculpt, and I'm just smoothing out and reshaping the wall I already made in my previous sculpt. Okay, so this wall is going to make possible the casting that we're going to do later on this tutorial video. So the wall has to be a bit high, not too high and not too low, so that you can be able to have a nice mold at the end of the day. Okay, so I'm using this tool to cut out the part where I do not need, and as well make it defined, so that when I'm placing it around on the bottom of the sculpt, there won't be any leakages from the casting when it's been done. Okay, so I'll be doing this all around the sculpt, and just like so. Yeah, I'll be doing this all around the sculpt. I'll be taking another piece and forming another wall just to cover up on the other side that is still open. And so I'm doing this just to block the lines and holes that are in between the two pieces. So this is very important so that there won't be any leakage when we are doing our casting. So ensure that every holes are covered. You can use your fingertip, you can as well use the sculpting tool to close and cover any holes that you get to see at the point where both pieces meet. And so the next product we'll be using will be a hairspray. You can use any hairspray of your choice, or you can as well use Vaseline or baby oil. So the essence of this hairspray is to serve as a release agent. Okay, so when the casting is cured, when the mold is cured, it would easily come off the sculpt and not ruin your clay. Okay, so I'll be spraying this evenly and using my brush to spread it out across every area of the sculpt, ensuring that it gets to every area. And don't do too much of the spray, and as well don't do too little of the spray. All right, so now the next product will be Lindy Sfx casting plaster. So this is what we'll be using to cast into our sculpt. So you need a little water because we did a little sculpt, and I'll be pouring in the plaster into the water. I used too much of water for this sculpt. I actually needed just half of what I used. So next time, don't use too much, and even if you use too little, you can always go back and make another one so that you do not waste product. Okay, so after mixing and you have a running texture like what I have, so you can add another plaster like I'm going to do right now, because this is very, very watery. Okay, I'm going to add in another plaster just to make it thicker but not too thick. And the working time also is ticking. When you're working with plaster, you have to be sure that you're ready to cast. Don't do this and then go do other stuff. You have to make sure that it is ready to be poured into your sculpt. Okay, so the texture now is good, and when I'm done mixing, it's going to give me like a pasty but still liquidy, but not as liquidy as the first time that we did it. So I'm just going to pour this into our sculpt. Yeah, so you can see it's going into our sculpt, and I'm pouring in everything. So you can see that it's almost close to the brim of the walls that I created, and I just don't need this much, but this is it. And please don't wash out the bowl or your hand in the sink. It's going to create blockage in the sink. You can do it outside where there won't be any faults. All right, so I'm going to allow this sit overnight, and watch out for the part 2 of this. Thank you.